Bitcoin has seen some pretty good volatility over the last couple of days, and although we have seen this heinous dump to the downside here, I don't think Bitcoin's necessarily in too bad of a position, and my reasoning for that is just for those of you who have been tuning along over the past couple of weeks, I've been talking about this falling wedge, which could end up being quite a bullish move for Bitcoin, and we did get that breakout to the upside as well as just retesting that old resistance as support for quite some time, but you can see that the bulls weren't able to gather any momentum and we just took this plunge to the downside. Now, the reason this plunge doesn't actually concern me all too much is because of where it ended. Where this dump actually started getting bought back up is basically a perfect retest of that wedge. So yes, even though it took a little bit of time, we are seeing a bit of a retest and we're seeing it respected currently, as well as this white trend line I have mapped out here. This line is actually a Fibonacci line. So if I take from our macro swing low to where we have topped out so far in this range, that would be my 886 Fibonacci line, and I have been pretty vocal about the fact that I was actually only expecting us to drop to the 786 Fib. That's probably my favorite Fibonacci line to play, whether it's pulled from top to bottom and looking for resistance at that level, or in this case pulled bottom to top and looking for a bit of support at that level. So I was expecting us to retest down towards 19.2 thousand. However, I did mention that if we ended up dropping that Fibonacci line, we'd most likely end up testing the 886 relatively quickly, even in smaller degenerate time frames. Quite often you'll see candle bodies kind of respecting the 786, but you'll get a quick wick down to the 786. And although this is a little different because it's a little longer of a time frame here, you can see that it was still respected very well. So seeing a little bit of confluence in that area. Also, for those of you who have been following along in MDX Discord group, you'll know that I was also pointing out this RSI bullish divergence on the 4-hour chart here. So the fact that we were trending lower, but the RSI was starting to climb was a fairly decent little warning shot in favor of the bulls. So it's great to see that we are getting this little bit of a reaction rally. One thing to watch out for is we are currently kind of getting back to our old support level of this little range before we broke down. So we may end up facing a little bit of resistance up ahead. Just the fact that this could potentially flip from strong support into strong resistance. So this is an area we're definitely going to have to keep our eyes on. And even if we do blast through this level, we still do have this cluster of resistance. Really, unless we see the price actually reclaim this red box and kind of starting to form a bit of support on top of this trade range back here. If that happens, I will be quite bullish for the midterm here. As it stands right now, again, I don't think Bitcoin's sitting all too badly, but there's just a few things that we need to keep on our radar as a bit of red flags, just not to get too much FOMO setting in yet. I do think that we're in an okay spot, but just, again, it's good to be aware of all scenarios. We don't want to lean too heavily one direction. We just want to be aware of all possible scenarios here. I just want to pull up my daily chart here. And this is actually quite interesting. I love playing double bottoms in such a way where I actually form a bit of a support box rather than just a line. And I like to basically take this whole kill zone, I'm going to call it, so the wicks, our current lows on the wicks, and just extending there. And this daily close, I mean, this is going to be coming up in the next hour here. And in my opinion, if we end up closing a daily candle kind of somewhere in here, I don't think that looks too bad. We would have a bullish divergence on the RSI going all the way from back here. And it's nothing crazy, but we do have a little bit of higher setting RSI here, so a little bit of a bullish divergence there. And again, just kind of getting that candle body closes right along that box here. If I pull up the MDX algo indicator, you can see that it's also coming in trying to call a bottom in the market at this level. So yes, we do still have a lot of resistance ahead, but that just a couple of things that I wanted to point out to you guys, as well as the oscillator 5 indicator here, also trying to call a bottom here. So there's a couple of things going for this from a bullish perspective, in my opinion. I think if we get this daily close, and really it's kind of looking like we're going to get it in the next hour here, I wouldn't be too surprised to see us test back down, kind of just touching this box, actually. I wouldn't be surprised to see us kind of touch back down to around 19,000 over the next 24 hours and kind of starting to trend higher from there. Of course, we're going to have to see how this plays out. Anything can happen. None of this is financial advice. I'm just showing you what I'm looking at as a potential setup in the market. Also, if I hop over to the 4 hour here, same thing. Just looking at that same box. You can see that's kind of right in the top section of this support box is where our 4 hours started finding support. And as well, to go with that, we do have the oscillator 5 trying to call a bottom here. And actually that's lining up with potential bottom on the Algo 3 indicator, as well as a take profit signal from the short that was called much higher by this indicator. I just love this indicator. If for nothing else, it's just beautiful colors. But this indicator has been quite accurate. Looking at the 4 hour here, I really wish I would have taken a short here, actually, because on the oscillator 5 here, we have a hidden bearish divergence matching up with the Algo 3 bearish divergence along here. As well, we were starting to really respect this trending moving average of the indicator as resistance. So, I mean, the indicators were really calling for this dump. I probably should have taken a short there, but I didn't. But what can you do? You can't catch them all. So yeah, just once again, like I said, from the short, it's calling a take profit as well as a potential bottom. Same with the oscillator 5. So just a couple of things I wanted to point out to you there. Just looking at my Bitcoin cheat sheet here, we are starting to flirt with this upward sloping support line a little more than I would like. You can see that we're actually starting to trade below it a little bit, but we are still technically holding this old resistance support flip. And I am giving this box quite a bit of a lot of consideration, just because this was an all-time high of a market cycle. So in my opinion, this resistance and also the fact that we ended up testing there for a few weeks on our way up in this parabolic run to the upside, I think that this box carries a lot of weight. So I think the fact that even if we drop this yellow line a little bit, we still do have support here. And on this weekly time frame, yeah, maybe we'll end up setting a double bottom as well here. So that is something that I'm interested in. I still don't really think we're going to see a crazy bull market until we end up reclaiming this blue box as support. And that's just because going back to all my previous market cycles, you can see that once we kind of failed this support box and reclaimed it, that's when the bull market really started growing some legs. There's no other way to describe that, really. Just parabolic moves to the upside after reclaiming that. And I think that something similar could happen here once we kind of reclaim that 28 to 32,000 US dollars. I think that will give Bitcoin the green light it needs to absolutely explode from there and start a whole new bull market. I don't know how probable that is before the next halving to start the next cycle, but we're going to have to see what happens. Another thing I want to point out is that 200-week moving average, which I've been watching fairly closely. Not a big fan of the fact that we are trading below it. I'm hoping, like, especially that we got above it and then dropped right back down below it. I think now if we formed some sort of a double bottom and got back above it, reclaimed it as support, I think we'd be in a very good position. But this is definitely something that's a little bit alarming from, if you're trying to be bullish, I mean, that's a little scary to be seeing resistance at the 200-week moving average. I am hoping that it kind of ends up being something like when there was enough data in Bitcoin to actually form this. You can see that we were kind of trading under it a little bit for a little bit of time there before absolutely blasting to the upside. So we're going to have to see if that moving average actually carries any weight in this next market cycle as well. Pulling up the MDX Algo indicator. On the weekly, we obviously had this short call much higher, so it absolutely nailed that. We do have this moving average of the indicator that will likely end up causing a bit of a struggle, I guess you could say. I wouldn't be too surprised to see a bit of resistance come into play there. However, one thing that is nice, even though we haven't got a long signal yet, we did get this take profit on the weekly time frame for this short signal. So that's just another thing to watch for. That could be an early bullish indication for where this trend is heading. But again, we're going to have to see. If we end up dropping this green box, I think absolutely it's possible that we end up dropping towards 16, 14, even 10,000 US dollars just to finish that 85% bear market pullback. But until we break this support, I mean, it is still technically support. So one last thing I want to go over. By the way, guys, if you haven't yet, please do me a favor and smash that thumbs up. Making these videos takes a lot of time out of my day. I've been super busy lately, so I know I've been slacking a little bit. I was out of service out in the forest for a few days camping. I have a shoulder injury, a wrist injury, so I've been seeing physio and stuff like that. So really, it would do me a huge favor if you smash that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. I'm a small channel, and I notice absolutely every interaction I get with it. And with that being said, I just want to go over one last thing. Is in my last video, I was talking about the price of Solana. And Solana still looks good in my opinion. It actually held up better than Bitcoin did because, like I mentioned, Bitcoin was respecting the 886 fib. Well, Solana is actually holding very strong at the 786. And in our last live stream on the MDX Discord group, I was talking about this, the fact that we broke above this wedge. And on top of that, just holding this 786 as support, things are looking pretty good for Solana in my opinion. The one thing that concerns me is we're not getting that violent reaction from the bulls that I was expecting, since we're just holding such an important level. But maybe the bulls are just a little leery, just kind of waiting to see what Bitcoin does. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens here. I think that Solana's still in a fairly good position as long as we're kind of holding this support here. Things are looking good. So anyways, guys, that's about all I wanted to go over for today. If you appreciated this content, once again, smash that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. And with that, stay safe, my friends. I'm out. Peace.